That brings us to our breaking news. And this is certainly news that you hate to share, but it is the reality. And it was just reported by TMZ Sports. And that is that Ravens offensive lineman Ben Cleveland has been arrested for DUI. Cops on the scene say that he blew a .178, which is a big number, especially when you consider the fact that this is a, 300 plus pound man. And since this literally broke right before we came on today, let's do a screen share and we will read directly from this TMZ article. Ben, of course, is a pending free agent, probably not expected to be in Baltimore after this season. Here is the piece itself. He allegedly drove his truck with a BAC over twice the legal limit. According to Baldwin County Sheriff's Office documents we obtained, Cleveland was suspected of drunk driving in Milledgeville, Georgia on February 12th. The documents state the 26-year-old, who of course was a third-round pick back in 2021 out of Georgia, was pulled over at around 10:25 in the evening after he had been swerving in a roadway. Cops wrote Cleveland was actually driving so erratically he nearly steered his black Ford F-250, drinking approximately 3 to 4 beers at a wheel. They also wrote in the report that his eyes were, quote, glossy and an odor of booze. Is this a emanated? What is that adjective or verb? Emanated from his ride. Clearly it reeked. How about reeked instead? Reeked in his car. The documents state that Cleveland failed at least one field sobriety test. They also note that he blew a .178, more than double the legal limit of .08 when a breathalyzer was administered. He was hauled off to a nearby jail, and according to the documents, an additional breath sample taken at the facility returned a BAC level of .161. He was then hit with 2 separate citations, one for DUI, alcohol, and the other for failure to maintain a lane. He's 6'7", 315 pounds, and we know the rest of his resume when it comes to Baltimore, Sarah, which of course has been lacking. And it looks like I just lost Sarah from her internet connection. But the reality is, this is the breaking news on Ben Cleveland, who, again, is set to hit unrestricted free agency. Ben has been with the organization since 2021. A lot of this year, including on this show and within this fan base, has been spent wondering, why is it that Ben is not a part of the program or a part of the lineup or a viable option at guard? And I'm not saying that this is connected whatsoever with any of that. What I am saying is, does this suggest where Ben's priorities are, where Ben's discipline is, where Ben's overall off-field habits lie, right? I think it just warrants a conversation that maybe, just maybe, Ben has not been in a great headspace when it comes to off-season training regimens, showing up fully committed and present to what he's doing and what he's asked of in Baltimore. But the reality is, you can pretty much book it that Ben's tenure as a Baltimore Raven is over. Again, more than 2 times the legal limit. And he's 6'7", 315 pounds, and he's telling the cops that he had approximately 3 to 4 beers. Something's not adding up here. But again, that is a big number. Blowing a .178. Goodness gracious. Yeah. And here's the thing. If you take a look at the future, and I'm talking about Ben's future, and I'm not talking about Ben's future in Baltimore, right? He's just weeks away from the new league year beginning. So not only is this obviously, and I don't think clearly, regardless of whether or not this took place, I think you feel pretty confident that his future in Baltimore was all but over. But now you look at not only a player who has shown up out of shape before to past summer training camps, not only a player that has not risen to the occasion when he had so many opportunities in front of him at guard. I mean, if I'm another team that's looking for an offensive lineman, I've got some serious question marks about Ben Cleveland in the coming weeks. So again, this is your breaking news as of just a few short minutes ago. And that is the current reality for Ben Cleveland, a former 2021 draft pick of the Ravens. Played in 54 games for them. TMZ reached out to the Ravens for comment, but had not heard back yet at the time of this post, which again just broke within the last 45 minutes or so. Ken McCusick adding some perspective on this as well. He just tweeted out, and I'll pull this up on the screen because this is interesting. This is the math right now that'll start to put it into perspective just how much Ben must have been drinking. But let me pull this up here. Ken tweet, the man would have to drink 6 beers in 1 hour to blow a .175. Ben Cleveland lists at 360 pounds on the Ravens roster, so he'd have to drink approximately 17 beers in 1 hour to reach that blood alcohol content. Even with his body processing the alcohol at slightly more than 1 beer per hour, this might reasonably be 20 beers over 3 hours prior to driving. And obviously he goes on to write, very disappointing, and I assume this shuts the door on any possible return to the Ravens. Look, what would have been possible? What would have been possible? I think this was all but over. And if it wasn't already official, I think you can pretty much put this in ink that Ben Cleveland's time in Baltimore is coming to an end quickly. And moving forward, obviously, in terms of his future, it begs the question, what's the rest of his future look like in the National Football League? So, again, I'm with you, habitual. I don't believe he was returning regardless. But this does not help his future whatsoever, especially when you've already dealt with plenty of issues as it pertains to Ben Cleveland. And clearly there was something between he and John Harbaugh. You might remember this past season when Harbaugh made the comments in one of those press conferences about, if Ben was the guy, then he'd be the guy. And it was kind of like, wow, that felt a little personal. And again, not that any of this activity or behavior is connected, but it begs the question. Is Ben Cleveland a fully committed football player at this point in his career? And that remains to be seen. And if I'm any team, any front office member, I got a big question mark around Ben Cleveland if I'm looking for him to potentially join my team. That's the latest there, which now brings us to another story that's also not one to make light of whatsoever, and that is the latest on Justin Tucker. Justin, as of this weekend, and the latest reporting done by the Baltimore Banner, states that 7 more massage therapists have accused him of inappropriate sexual behavior, which brings the number to 16 women across 8 different Baltimore area spas. I'm not going to go in and read the entire piece. I'll let you do that if you haven't already done so to get the details if you're interested, according to the Baltimore Banner. But there is very graphic detail provided. There's a lot to unpack. And at this point, especially when you look at past timelines with similar situations, most notably Deshaun Watson, I got to think that Justin's future in Baltimore is in grave danger. Within that same thread, Justin Fenton tweeted that, like the others, meaning the other massage therapists, these allegations date to the 2012 to 2016 timeframe. That was his rookie season, and of course, the year that they won the Super Bowl, to 2016. Justin maintains he did not act inappropriately and was never banned from any businesses. He provided a signed declaration from one spa owner saying that she never knew of nor suspected any problems. That document in part reads as follows. During that time, Justin was a frequent customer and received multiple massage therapy treatments at the spa. At no time did I or my husband ever receive any complaints from any source about Mr. Tucker's behavior at the spa, nor did we ever suspect that Mr. Tucker had engaged in any misconduct whatsoever at the spa. Based on my conversations with employees of the spa, my understanding is that Mr. Tucker had an excellent reputation among the massage therapists and other employees with whom he interacted. And then went on to write, I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of South Carolina that the foregoing is true and correct. Again, that is a document provided by Justin and his representatives in terms of a signed declaration from one spa owner saying that she never knew of nor suspected any problems. The issue for Justin is that the latest reports not only more than doubles in terms of the number of massage therapists, but their accounts, again, allegations, but their accounts are extremely graphic and obviously serious. The 7 new accusers, and this is directly from the Baltimore Banner, include women who say Tucker acted inappropriately at some of the city's most luxurious spas. This includes the spa at Four Seasons Hotel, the Baltimore Spa and Salon at the Ritz-Carlton Residences. That one has since closed and been replaced with a new one. But again, what's notable here is that women who are coming forward to share their accounts is now at 16, and it begs the question, are there more coming? That's what we asked in general when we addressed this for the first time within the last few weeks when it first broke last month. And I'll continue to ask that. Is there more? Is there more coming? I'll bring you back in, partner, because I think what is interesting, if you look at a similar situation, which we know was high profile for Deshaun Watson a few years ago, maybe it can help us put together a potential timeline in terms of what could be coming next for Justin. And I'll go ahead and screen share this piece from The Athletic. It was this was September of 2024 by Mark Palaio. But again, it looks back at the timeline of Deshaun Watson's legal troubles and his career since the first sexual misconduct allegation came in 2021. So what specific part do we want to start with?
Well, thanks for having patience. I don't know why my Wi-Fi went out and then the data on my phone went out. So we'll see how long I can last. If I go out again, I'll just leave you alone and not be a distraction. But I think after the newest allegations on Justin Tucker came out, there's more and more pressure as each allegation comes out on the Ravens and the NFL to speak or act upon what's happening. And so I was curious as to what that timeline could look like. Like when are we going to hear something? And I don't know what the Ravens will do, but I do know that in this Deshaun Watson scenario, as we look at the timeline, the very first time an allegation went public, Bobby, I believe was in March. Can you scroll to the March of 2021? Which is when there's April, and then March should be coming up next. Yeah. So it was the first allegations emerge. Okay. So for Justin Tucker, the first allegations emerged in January. Okay. Now, if you scroll down, many things happened between that first allegation, including being traded to the Cleveland Browns and then him getting that fully guaranteed contract. And then it wasn't until August of 2022, as you're still scrolling, as you can see how much stuff is happening in between. Let's see if we get all the way down to August. And it was in August of 2022 that the NFL suspended Deshaun Watson. So if we go from March of 2021 to August of 2022, that's almost a year and a half, Bobby. That's a year and a half before a, quote unquote, punishment from the NFL came down. Now, of course, NFL teams can act independently from the NFL. If the Ravens wanted to, if their investigations were finished, they could say, hey, we want to release Justin Tucker. We'll announce it now, but it won't happen until, say it'll be a post June 1, right? So it won't officially go down until June, but they could announce that they were going to do so. But if we look back on kind of what happened with Deshaun Watson, the way it took for the NFL this time, it could take up to 18 months. Now, do I think that would happen? Probably not. They'll probably take action before. I imagine the Ravens would take action in either March or before the season starts. But it just kind of takes you back to that time to remember how long it took for the NFL to take action.
Yeah, no, I think this was smart to kind of give us at least somewhat of a blueprint here, even though they are different situations, similar certainly, but different situations when it comes to the overall timeline and whatnot. It is notable, Sarah. I was thinking about this, getting ready for what I can now say is official. I will be in Indianapolis next week at the Combine, and John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta are expected to have media availabilities.
Correct.
I mean, it makes you wonder, one, will the Ravens try and handle this publicly one way or the other prior to those guys sitting down? Because inevitably, these questions are going to be asked right off the bat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that fans are going to want more. Listen, we always have to say this because this is the way the legal process goes is, Justin Tucker has denied all the allegations. And so one of the reasons why NFL teams and the league itself has to do an investigation is because if they were to cut him prematurely, and listen, 16 allegations are a lot, but obviously they have to have their ducks in a row because if the NFL or the Ravens take a misstep, they could be hit with, a lawsuit or something like that. They just have to have everything in order. That being said, fine, you got to do that, but I don't think it's going to satisfy the NFL world if the Ravens, Eric DeCosta and or John Harbaugh, did you say they're both scheduled to speak? Do we know?
Well, in the past, I'm just basing that off of past combines.
Well, yeah, it kind of depends. If you go far back, they would Ozzie Newsome and like John Harbaugh would alternate. But sometimes they'll both speak or whatever. Either way, one of the two or both will speak. And I don't know that it'll be enough to say we're looking into it.
Right?
It's just
exactly.
Like that just kind of falls short. And they can say, well, we take allegations like this seriously. We're looking into it. They obviously have to figure out, their lawyers, the Ravens lawyers, the NFL lawyers, they all have to make sure that they're not getting out ahead of their skis. But it will not be a good look if it ends at, oh, these are serious allegations and we're looking into it.
I couldn't agree more. This has gotten to the mode of it's snowballing. The trickle-down effect is on. Clearly, there have been massage therapists who seemingly have been inspired by other folks coming forward And you wonder if there's more within that period of 2012, his rookie season, to 2016. So obviously this is something that, especially when, man, you go back to back. First it's Ben, Sarah, and first, and then you go to Justin. It's not exactly been a glorious offseason here when it comes to these two coverage stories, but this is not going away for the Ravens. I know that for sure. And at some point you would think something's got to give, especially with those media availabilities potentially coming up next week in Indianapolis for the annual NFL Combine.